Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to part 3 of the Epic Nest 1D series. My name is Jacobus Oberholster, and I'm an AEC and Procon technical consultant for Micrographics, and I will be taking you through part 3. If you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, please go and watch those two clips, as they will be essential for what we are going to do next. So without further ado, let's jump straight into where we left off in part 2, and we've set up our Nest 1D project or model, whatever works for you. So I've explained how all of this works, and now what we're going to do is we're going to look at calculating our percentage utilization. So what the program will do is it'll take into consideration the cutter and blade thickness. It will take into consideration all of the required lengths, the different stock options available, and their lengths as well. Again, if you have offcuts from an old project, you can actually pull those in, set their priority to higher than those of the standard stock lengths so that they are used first in the nesting. So number 5 is the highest priority, and anything lower than 5 is a lower priority. So what we're going to do is we are going to look just at our options quickly, and there's not really a lot to this. Here you can set your default start offcut length, your default end offcut length, and then your default stock length as well. If there's any other information you want to add, you can do that, but in general it's fine as it is. So that's it for our options. What we're going to do is we're just going to hit calculate, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like anything is happening. So we need to give it a little bit of time just to let the program run. We are looking at actually programming in a loading screen that will notify you once the calculation is done, or even just a loading screen that you can see running from 0 to 100%. And so one of the things that I do is I just sort of hover my cursor over some of the other buttons, and I'm looking for them to highlight which they're not at the moment. The nice thing is here, at least we get a nice results information pop-up. So cool. So this is what it says. So some of the items could not be nested. This could be because of the following reasons. So one, you did not specify enough stock items, which we know isn't the problem because our quantity is set to -0, which represent infinity. So an infinite amount of stock. Number 2 is the items you'd like to nest are longer than the stock items specified. And this is an incredibly helpful check, because along the line, you could be actually entering in element lengths in your model that are not within the standard stock lengths available. The implication of that is that you are going to need to come up with a revision to specify how the splice should be made. And that's something that you can avoid because it adds time and complexity and therefore cost to the project. So right here, you'll know that, okay, because everything is -1, it's not point number 1, it's point number 2, and you might need to go back and look at your model again. So this is a nice little built-in check that can actually help you with your design workflow. But nonetheless, the results are available for us. So we can go okay, and we can go to results. And this is what you see. So material is empty, so we're not too bothered. Here is the stock item, its length. So of course those lengths vary if you add it in like offcut sections or different section lengths. And what it shows you here says bar 1, start offcut is 0. It mentions then the different sections that will fit into it. So it says within the first stock length, you have one section of 4686 millimeters long, and then another section of 4311 millimeters long. Of course, these are dependent on the schedule you set up right at the beginning. Then you get your second stock item or your second stock length. That says again bar 2, and it says start offcut is 0 because of course we didn't enter a offcut. You can see it start and end offcut, and here it goes. Okay, there's the bar of 3108. And there's another one of 2952, and there's another one of 2934 millimeters that are fitted in to that specific stock length over there, or that specific beam. Then what it does is it calculates the number of these beams that you need, or these stock items that you need, which is absolutely incredible. So it shows you for the first stock item, you need 127. For the second one, you need 1,678, and this becomes your ordering list, which is really, really cool. Then we go into items not nested, and it will help you identify these items in your model. And it shows you, just highlights the item. So part number is an important one that you do need to create in your schedule, and we discussed that in part 1. And it tells you the length of that item and the quantities. You can actually see there are 4 of these beams with these lengths, and they can't be nested because we don't have an available stock length that works with this particular cut length. Okay, so you need to go back and change your design. All right, so this is what you get out of this, which I think is absolutely incredible, and it could really make your life so much easier. The nice thing is that if you look at these, it says start off cut and end off cut, which means that these pretty much fit in perfectly, taking into consideration the cutter blade thickness. So if we do a bit of quick maths, right, and we add up those two numbers, we see 4686 plus 4311 equals 8997. And because it will be cut in half, we have the 3 millimeters there. Add the 3 mils there, and you have a full length, which is epic. Now, as you go further down, the optimization in a sense reduces, right? And here you can see end of cut 1 mil, end of cut 3 mils, 17 mils, 28, 41, 58, 58 or 85, 78, 81, 86, and so forth. And what that means is this is what's left over after we've cut out sections from this particular stock item. All right, and as you go down, it gets higher per section. So it ends on the highest offcut, and then it proceeds from there onto the other stock items. All right, click on analysis. And here what we have is we have the total length used and the offcut, amount as well. So for this particular stock item, you've got utilized and then you've got offcut. So it looks incredible, but it's still over 70 meters of offcuts. So even though our offcut percentage is quite low, like a 93.84% utilization is very cool, but it still equates to 70 meters of offcuts. And so it goes on. So if I click on the next item, the utilization is even more, but still 73 meters. And so it goes on. And you can see that utilization actually differ between different elements. So with this particular one, I think that is actually quite good. So the utilization is 96.93, and then the offcuts are only 4 meters. So sometimes these amounts would be unavoidable, but you can see those are actually quite excessive, and you can go back to your project and try and address them. Another cool thing is that you can actually set for yourself a minimum utilization percentage you want for each type of stock item. I'm not saying that it's always going to be plausible or obtainable, but it is actually a very cool metric and something that you can brag with, that you don't have anything less than 98% utilization of the different stock items. So which is very, very cool. Then what you can do is you can actually click on report expanded. You can give this a job name. So I'm going to call this Nest 1D series. The job number is going to be part 03. Description is going to be our utilization report. And the customer is going to be everyone. Okay, hope I spelled everyone correctly. Then we're going to hit create. It's asking us where to save it. So I'm going to save it in the part 3 folder. I'm going to save it as an Excel file. And it will open up automatically. And here you go. Here's your cutting list, your job name, your job number, your description, your date, time, and your customer. And here you've got a bar number 1, its length, and of course that which is cut out of that 1 bar. So of course this can become an incredibly long list, but this is something that we'll look at refining actually in the future. So under one stock item type, you'll actually see all of your cuts versus actually having it broken up into bar by bar, which is going to mean that this is an incredibly large Excel spreadsheet. All right. So that's what you can generate. That's the type of report you can generate at this time. And you might not even need this type of report, right? So it's up to you. And of course, you can further refine the information in here. And what's cool, is you get a stock list as well, where you can add notes, material, and so forth. Also in Nest 1D, you can send it out as a rolled up report. You can create different report types, and you can export an unformatted results report. Okay, and then you can actually add your own formatting to that. So all in all, I think that this is an absolutely incredible tool and essential for today's workflow, especially as we are sitting with the need for really optimizing on our use of material for environmental friendliness, and also just for cost cutting. Like, this is an epic way of cutting costs by ensuring that we optimize our use of structural steel and even other types of elements or other types of materials in our model. So I really hope that this is something that draws your attention, something that you'd like to know a bit more of. And if you'd like to, please send me an email. You will see right at the beginning of the clip, you'll see my email address there. So please reach out and I'll be happy to assist and actually show you in the right direction where you can get this awesome program for yourself. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. If you have questions particularly or specific to Nest 1D and you don't necessarily want to send an email, pop it in the chat and I'll be sure to get to answering you as soon as possible. But otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you have an epic afternoon further and a lekker week.